So I just went with the split.
18 plus minus 36. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
It's just minus 36.
Well, you could do an if-else statement of if the minus is, if something is to the right of the minus sign, if it's an operator, then treat it as a, wait, never mind. No, if something, if a number is to the right of the minus sign, treat it as if it's a, no, so if an operator is to the left of the minus sign.
See, my goal is to make it so that however the user put it, like if you forgot to put spaces incorrectly or whatever, as long as you put it in the correct format, I would be able to trim any of the white spaces and just run the calculation. That was my goal.
Yeah, that's a good goal, because eventually you'd want to get to the point where they didn't have to worry about putting spaces around everything, just so the split function works correctly.
Yeah, I had an idea, but then I just realized the situation where it wouldn't work. So, like if it were to always treat it as negative, no matter what, as plus a negative number, for example.
And then where would that work?
But I was thinking when there's division or multiplication added to it, though, it gets a little bit hairy. So.
And then is this allowed?
No.
No, syntax error.
Is that increment 18?
Post increment.
Is this allowed?
My program didn't have those.
No.
No.
Why not?
I mean, it could be allowed. I mean, yeah, it should be allowed.
Most calculators, that doesn't work. You plug that into a calculator, the negative sign, for
Goes
the
away.
subtraction, and the addition.
You could have it work and just have it be when you put in a minus and then you hit the plus overrides the minus and the minus goes away. Because like in a calculator, when you hit 18 minus and you go, whoops, I really wanted to add, you hit the add button and then 36 and it just does the last operator that you entered. So all the operators before the last one get erased.
Although this works fine in Java.
Syntax error won't work.
Yeah.
It's subtracting positive 36.
So Java has the plus sign as a positive sign?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if we're simulating a calculator, then this would not be allowed. Or I should say, what it does here, maybe what you chose to do, which is to override the previous operator, in which case you could do weird stuff.
Yeah, it's just 18 minus 36.
Or, yeah. Or is it 18
Times
plus
it, then
minus
divides it,
36?
then plus and 18. It'd just be 18.
What is that?
Be 18 times 36 minus 36.
It's 18 times 36.
Minus 36.
18 times
18 times
36.
Negative.
negative 36.
No, negative and negative are positive.
But what you were saying was
Yeah.
if you type an operator and then you type another operator immediately following, it cancels, or it erases the previous one, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can use the calculator solution of creating a button that says this is a negative value as opposed to subtraction for use of negatives.
Yeah, that's why the calculator in fact has
Yeah.
a separate button for that.
Yeah.
There's the negation button and then there's the subtraction button. But like in Java, you only get one dash sign there, and then you got to sort of infer what did the person mean when you did that. Ken, if you can conquer this problem, then you're well on your way to being able to do things like do the front end of a regular compiler, which is to look at a computer program and break it apart into the various words, irrespective of the spacing. You know, like when you're typing in Java, it doesn't require that you put spaces around every single thing.
Yeah.
You're allowed to bunch some things up together, and it figures out that this variable name is ending, and now a brace is beginning. And there are some places in Java where you have to put a space in because there is no other way to figure out what's going on. Like, you have to put a space between the word public and class.
Yes, that's true.
You know, the public classes doesn't mean anything. But there are lots of places where you don't have to put a space. Usually because there's some intervening punctuation that can act kind of as that separator.
So I definitely would have to have like a, is that what we did in the street structures when we were trying to split up like we had a string and we were just looking at it, what is it called, regex or something?
Yeah.
Where you just split it up that way?
Yep, that's what you essentially have to kind of implement here is, what does a number look like? Well, it's a minus sign, possibly. Followed by one or more digits. So to do this problem in a way that's sort of flexible and available and able to be expanded on to do other things, you have to write a program that implements this regular expression. And I showed you some way. I don't remember what discrete structure class you were in, but I showed you some ways possibly to do it, like with a two-dimensional array of states and possible inputs.
I'm trying to remember that. I don't remember.
I can show you some of the different.
Well, they have matches in Java. You can use dot matches. That's kind of like.
Yeah, that's doing regular expressions.
Okay.
So another way to do that is just to plug this regular expression into that dot match method, and then it will pull out the piece of the string that matches that regular expression. But you still have the problem where, does the minus sign go with the number, or does it go with as an operation in the middle? So you still have to figure that out.
Yeah.
How about the rest have other questions on the project? I'm here to make sure that you get this project done. And it's not looking good right now, so. No, nothing? You just want to go work on it?
Yeah, I'm kind of like diagnosing right now. I don't understand the problem I'm allowed to ask you for.
The postfix I got to work, it's just the shunning yard is just difficult to comprehend. There's a lot of stuff going on. Hard to figure it out.
There is.
I just followed the pseudocode that he wrote. That's all you really have to do.
Then the pseudocode isn't all the way complete, and if you can mess it up pretty easily.
So it's pseudocode.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I didn't mind a question. I was having problems with my Git, and I assumed it was a problem at the, it was doing like a null pointer exception, so I thought it was at the very end of my stack. I was trying to reach past that, but I just made it print out the index when it's having problems, and it is at 0. So I think it's having problems getting an empty stack. We made it throw that exception for null pointer for a reason like that, right? Because I have the try and catch.
How is your stack implemented? Is it
It's an L list.
it's an L list?
Yeah, so it's failing at n.getNext because it's an empty stack, so there's nothing there. So how do I make that just say no, this is empty? Because we have the catch, but it's just throwing an exception. So.
Well, you shouldn't be encountering that exception. There's one thing about the list that you might run into. Now, I don't know if this is related to what you're talking about, which is, so let's say you're trying to evaluate 3, 4 plus. So this is already in postfix. So we're skipping the whole infix to postfix stuff. So to be able to test this out, you go something like list L equals new L list, right? And then you go L dot add 3, L dot add 4, L dot add plus. And then you go eval L. Right? And so we're inside of eval, and the pseudocode, what was the first thing the pseudocode does?
Checks.
It checks what's at the, it pops. I mean, does it peek at the,
Was something like loop across?
Loop across the size.
Across the list? So basically going from 0 to size. When you're in this loop here, the first thing you do is you're going to go something like get 0. Right? What's returned by this? Plus. Is that what you want? What do you want first?
3.
You want 3 first.
Use a fancy array.
So the problem here is that when you add things to the list, it goes to the front, which means when you loop across it, you're going to get them all backwards. So a better solution here is don't use a list. Use a fancy array. Okay, now when you do get, what do you get?
3.
Correct. This is what you want. Yes?
I've thought about implementing additional methods into stack that will use fancy array instead of list, so I can have both within one class, both accessible from one class.
Such as?
Say we already have push, pop, and peek. Just create a push to method or push fancy array method, for example. So I have methods so I can just switch between the two as necessary.
Push fancy array? What does it do?
Well, so if I want to have these values in both a fancy array and an L list for the different operators that we're going to be doing from the shunting yard, where there's some stuff that needs to be in one order and some stuff that has to be in another. Might be easier to have both included.
So in your stack, it actually pushes things onto both a list and a fancy array?
Or just one or the other, depending on a command.
I'm still not quite following.
It's just a crazy idea.
I mean, are you saying like you can, when you make your stack, you can choose whether you want it to be an array or a list?
Yeah, something like that.
And who would do that choosing? The user of the stack?
Yeah, or the shunting yard program.
Yeah, the user of the stack. Not necessarily a person, but whoever's making the stack.
Yeah.
It's actually not a half bad idea. But as far as the stack is concerned, the only operations are peek, pop, push, and is empty. And for a stack, does it matter whether you use an array or a list for those 4 operations?
It could. There's some with the mathematical problems going from, especially when translating from prefix to postfix, it could be necessary to have it entered into the list or stack in a certain order. And it just might be easier with one or the other.
But with the stack, you're only operating on one end of either the array or the list.
Yeah.
So the difference between those two happens because they get reversed because we're operating on kind of both ends of it. But with a stack, you're only operating on one end of it. So it shouldn't matter which one you use. But it does matter here when you're building up this expression because you want them in a certain order. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, I was just saying that the stack isn't that the first in, first out thing, so it's always coming off of one side, so if you're using the list, you do it from the front, if you're using the array, you do it from the back. It doesn't matter.
You just use add and remove, and it doesn't matter which one you choose. So what do you guys want to work on today? So we got
GUI.
half an
GUI,
hour.
yeah.
A GUI? Okay.
Not ready.
Some of you aren't ready, but
Work on shunting yard.
we can't go in the lab just yet because there's a class in there right now, so gotta kill a little bit of time. this will look a little bit familiar because we're going to use the same graphics library that we used in that class. So if you, let's turn off some of the lights here so you can see this. Yeah, so if you log on to Canvas here, there's a download there called acm.jar, and actually if you still have that left over from last semester, get this version. This is a new, like version 2.0. You guys were using 1.0 last semester. So some of the problems with this have been fixed. Like I think last semester some of you were, we were making our game and some people said like the buttons aren't quite responsive enough. You click on a button and sometimes we would miss the button click.
Does this make it so we can take it out of BlueJ?
That doesn't change that.
Oh.
But yeah, we should be able to take it out of BlueJ.
Okay.
So download this. And then to install it in BlueJ, you're going to go Tools, Preferences, then to Libraries.
Wait.
Let me go ahead and download it since I don't have it installed yet.
Libraries.
Yeah, will it overwrite your old one, or do you have to uninstall the old one?
You probably have to uninstall the old one. Download this. Tools, Preferences, Libraries, Add. Now you have to share.
Sounded like skills.
So you see what I did? I added it, click OK, and it's going to say you need to restart BlueJ for it to take effect.
So what does this file do?
So this is a jar file containing a whole bunch of graphics classes that make it easier to put together things like GUIs than the traditional swing programming, which is just like a bag of hate. Oh, a bag of hurt. To use Steve Jobs' words, bag of hurt. Okay, and then I don't myself have the calculator stuff going here. So, well, we can build a GUI anyway. We'll build a GUI on top of these dogs. Okay, new class. Let's call this. Okay, so at minimum, your, okay, yeah, some imports here. Import acm.program.star at minimum. And then your class is going to extend something called program. And let's just see if that compiles. Good. So what this program class does is basically program is a JFrame. But it does a lot of the setup stuff for you. So like it puts a background on there. It actually gives you a little menu there so you do file quit, although we're not going to use those menus. And it sets it up so that when you click the close button on the window, the program actually quits. By default, what happens when you click on the close button on a window?
Destroys the JFrame.
No?
Doesn't it just make it invisible?
Just makes it invisible. But it doesn't actually quit the program.
Oh yeah.
So-
Doesn't stop the virtual machine. It just
Yeah, it just simply sets the visible flag false,
Yeah.
and then the window goes away, but the program is still running. So one of the things the program does is it sets it up so when you click on that button, it actually quits the program.
and that's exit on close, right?
Yeah.
Wait,
Huh?
so like if can I take this to like Eclipse and use this ACM jar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then in here you need a method called init. And init's job is just to set up the user interface. So since I'm making this out of dogs, what can we do with dogs?
Bite.
Well, no, it has to be based on what the dogs currently can do.
They could
Right?
shoot each other with lasers.
Only one of them can shoot lasers.
Well, then the other ones can die.
All the dogs can sleep.
Eat.
Do they all eat?
Bark.
They all bark.
So
I think they only ate and bark
And then, and they all have an age also.
and sleep.
So I think what I want is, I can just, bigger window. So I think what I want is some buttons, and one says bark, one says sleep, and one says what? Age, and then a display here that displays what these things are going to return.
But I gotta pick the dog.
And then, yeah, some way to pick dog. So you get to pick from Shih Tzu and Pug and
Corgi?
Corgi. So you pick your dog and then it does these things. Okay, check one out. So each one of these things is a type of widget that you can put on your GUI. These 6 buttons are called J-button. A piece of text that's just sitting all by itself is a J-label. And this is a J... frame? No, the frame is the whole thing. It's a J... a what?
Is it panel? Oh, no.
No.
Text field or
It's a text field or something like that, yeah.
J input or J text field?
I think. We'll look it up.
J input sounds better to me.
So we're really only using it for output.
Yeah.
We're not actually going to type anything here. So what we'll do is we'll disable it. So
Style a J label.
well, J label doesn't have the box around it.
Well, I'm saying you could style it to look like that.
And
Just set text.
we'll use text field and we'll just disable it so you can't type in it, but it still gets the frame and you can change the text that's in it.
I'm pretty sure it's a J input.
J input? We'll figure it out.
I'll look it up.
You can change, you know, there's not J-label change as well.
That's what we were saying, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like J label dot set text. And that's it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look.
But yeah, it doesn't have the box around it. And also the problem with a J label is a J label sizes itself to what the text was initially. You know, so if you have a single word in there, it kind of sizes itself to that word. And then if you try to change it to something that's longer, you just get a bunch of stars or something like that.
Oh, the dot dot dot.
Yeah, that says I can't fit that in here.
And the worst part about it is it truncates the whole message too.
Yeah.
You know,
So with the text field or the input, if it's too long, then at least you have the ability to scroll back and forth and see that what was in there.
Yeah.
So that's why I like that box thing there. Okay, so in init, we're going to need 6 buttons, and we're going to need a J label, and we're going to need a
Text field.
text field. Let's do J button, Pug,
Shih Tzu.
Shih Tzu, and Corgi, Bark, Corgi, Bark, Sleep, and Age. And then here we go. Pug equals new J button. And then inside the constructor, you can tell it what label you want to be on that button. our 6 buttons. And then we need a J label. And we need a
J text field.
single line, okay, that's what we want. J text field allows the editing of a single line of text. That's exactly what we want. And since we want it initially to be blank, we won't put anything inside the constructor. Okay. Now, my window in reality will not be skewed like, it's funny, have I shown you that from here, when I look at it at this angle, it looks perfectly normal. Because of my angle of view, and then I realize that it's quite distorted when I come over here. Seriously, you come over here, it's perfectly rectangular.
It's not that bad.
Okay, we have arc, sleep, age, corgi, zoo, hug. So what I see here is this looks like, kind of like a table that has 2 columns and how many rows? 4 rows. So I'm going to set this user interface up as a table with 2 columns and 4 rows. So first of all, let's see if this thing compiles. And it's not going to, because it doesn't know what J button is. It's also going to not know what J label and J text field is. Those come from Java x.swing.star. Table layout T equals new table layout. And then I think we tell it how many rows and then how many columns. So this is a 4 by 2. Next, we're going to take our table layout, which is just simply, it's called a layout manager. You just give the dimensions, and now we need to add this layout manager to our window. We're going to kind of lay it on top. We're going to go this.add t. And the last thing is to start putting our pieces into the table. Any guess how we're going to do that?
Put it in its row,
What's that?
put it in each spot.
Yeah, so when you add, the first thing is going to go in the top left, and the next thing will go right next to it, and the next thing will go down below it.
Automatically?
Automatically, yeah. So you start adding them in, and they start filling it in. Since we told it how big the table is.
This would have been good for that one game you made.
Which one game?
Simon.
The
Even
that
odd.
too, but the pieces, you draw 15,
Even odd.
even odd.
Oh, yeah. But there we wanted to mix graphics and tables and stuff like that. And once we have this table here, we can't put graphics
You can't.
on top of it. I think we can put graphics behind it, though. We'll
Or
try.
you can make the buttons images, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll try. Okay. So any guess as to what we're going to do?
T dot add,
Why t.add?
because you gotta add a component to the table layout?
Yeah, so we wanted to tell the table to add, what's the first thing?
Coordinate.
Label, so pick.
Pick. And then?
Output.
Mhm.
And then coordinate. Spark. Hug and then H.
And I think that'll do it. Oh, this comes from import ECM dot,
Could you just import the entire class or the entire
no, we
library?
have to do it one package at a time. No, but we got further than that. Okay, I need to look this up.
It's like an alarm.
Yeah, it is an alarm. It's pretty loud if you go through the door.
What?
There's an alarm going off like out there, like somebody's cell phone alarm.
Go back to like the class again.
I can't hear it at all.
See if we open the door.
Oh. Oh, here it is. That's what I wanted. Did you see it? Now what? Alright, so since we set the layout of our screen to table layout, we don't tell a table to add everything, we just add it to ourselves. Ah, so,
That's not gonna run.
woof. People do woof.
I got one wrong.
Hello.
Is the default visible or not visible?
Start after now initialized.
I know, I agree. Hey,
Oh, this is what I get for not practicing this before class.
you can make this make it small.
You have to set size?
No, we should do this.
No, it should have a size.
Bring these collapse these together.
So who makes
Yeah,
the
yes, the
ACM
answer.
library?
Some folks are scanning through it, or they're now curating it. I think what the problem is, and there's gotta be a way around this, is applet.
So that's running in the browser?
No, you can run it outside the browser, but I do kind of have Java set to not show applets. Let's see, there's one init. Let's see if we can make this go. Let's start.
Doesn't matter. Let's do it.
No, can't do that.
Google, how do you add something to a table in Java? To a complete sentence like that.
Just use one of their examples and edit it from there.
It's essentially what I'm doing here.
Or see if you can even, see if you compile that example, it'll actually even run.
Oh, I'm sure it will. Well, in the sense of, it'll compile.
Yeah, it'll compile, but it's just if it'll run on the machine.
I'm missing some other class. Oh, I'm missing AWT. Oh, let's do this one.
It's still going. Yeah.
Nothing there. Nothing there. Nothing there. Run. Nothing? Nothing? Dang it. This is embarrassing. Because I know I'm going to run into the same issue when I introduce this to my CS12 class. Say, hey, you thought you make a GUI. It doesn't work.
I know the answer is do something.
Go the old school way and write your own main, and then do it through like.
The program should be